Hello everyone, welcome to Inside AI. I'm Jenny Yu, founder of Himalaya Quantitative Solutions. Today is my great privilege and honor to be here with Saira Jesani, Deputy Executive Director at the Data and Trust Alliance and the partner at SY Partners. Saira, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to come and talk about some of the work that we're doing.
So can you briefly introduce yourself and the Data and the Trust Alliance to our audience?
Sure. So as Jenny already said, my name is Saira. I am the Deputy Executive Director of the Data and Trust Alliance, and we are a young but very mighty organization. We were started 3 years ago. It's the brainchild of the former CEO of IBM, Sam Palmisano, and the former CEO of American Express, Ken Chenault. And the whole idea here was to focus on the responsible usage of data and AI. We know that the future will be powered by data and AI, but actually business will be powered by the responsible usage. And so we look at it through the lens of business value, what will actually provide business value. And the second is, what can you do to increase the trust of all your stakeholders? So when you look at all of those through those two lenses, you start to really figure out what are the actual kind of, practices or standards or tools that companies today really should be using to win in their industries.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. So I'm really fascinated by how Data and the Trust Alliance under the leadership of you and John Iwata realize the importance of data as the cornerstone of AI years ago. And how did you come up with that realization and actually take the action to do something about it?
Yeah. It's very lovely because the focus on data has been around for ages, right? And it's funny as more people look at AI and forget that the actual ingredient for powerful AI is data.
Yeah.
So I will just start by saying that the companies in our alliance are companies that have been around for quite a while. If you think about the IBMs and the American Expresses and the, Walmarts of the world, these are companies that have gone through more than one technological revolution. And so when you have leaders like that around you, what you're thinking about is not how do I do better AI? It's what are the fundamentals that I need to succeed?
Yeah.
And whether that's AI, whether that's quantum, whether that's whatever emerging technology and tool is going to come our way. So when I think about the fundamentals of that, data is at the core. And if I think about the last 3 years in terms of what we've done, we've actually systematically addressed the core elements. How do you trust data? How do you trust models? And how do you trust the people and the processes that sit all around them?
Right.
These are fundamentals, no matter what will happen in the future. And I think it's our job to make sure all the companies have the foundation to move forward.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that insight. Can you talk about your recent initiative, data provenance standards? According to New York Times, you help big companies find a way to identify AI data they can trust. This is a quite accomplishment. What inspired you specifically focus on this area?
Yeah, so as more and more companies and their CEOs start to invest in AI, as we just discussed, data is such an absolute need. The problem now when you're looking at data is, do I have the right data? Is it quality data? Can I trust the data? And, when you're working in a cross-industry group like I am, the concept of data quality is very difficult because data quality in the world of retail is different to data quality in healthcare, is different to finance. So when we got together, we said, well, how do we even move the needle on data quality in a cross-industry way? And so we sat down with many practitioners, about 50 practitioners. And they said, well, actually, what you can do is you can have a standardized way of looking at data provenance. And what I mean by data provenance is, where is the data coming from? What is the origin of the data? And do I understand how to use it? Sometimes data has rights over it or restrictions. If all of a sudden you're buying a lot of data and you're training your models with that, and then you realize that I didn't actually have the rights to do it, you're in a bit of trouble. So for everyone across the board, no matter where you sit in an organization, if you're in procurement and you're buying the data, if you're training your AI model, if you're doing data analytics, you absolutely need to understand where your data is from. That is the first step in data quality. And what's funny about this is that if you look at the AI regulation that's coming out,
Yep.
quite a bit of it is about transparency into the data. We are actually addressing that. And to your point, we haven't just thought about it, we've actually built something. We have a solution. We spent 10 months, we brought together 19 different companies. So, Walmart, IBM, Amex, Humana, Nike, etc. And these are practitioners in the world of data governance, compliance, legal, data strategy, to come together and say, well, what gives us that transparency? What is the information that I really need to know about the data set to assess whether I want to trust it? And that is, at the end of the day, the real game here. Can I trust it? In order for us to be able to trust something, you need transparency into it. And if you want to get the right kind of transparency, you need to have the right kind of information. And that's why we've spent over 10 months trying to figure out, what information do you need about a data set? One thing that I want to add when it comes to our data provenance standards is we're doing this across all industries. So it's not an exhaustive set of information about a data set. It's just the most important things you need to know that is relevant to you, whether you're in healthcare, finance, retail, or anything else. And then, as an organization, you can build on top of that. So at the end of the day, what it is that we've really done is come up with a baseline set of standards around data provenance so that you, as an organization, have transparency into the things that make you understand, should I trust this data set or not?
Thank you. So what, in your point of view, how do those standards pave the way for more trustworthy and reliable future of AI?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and some of it, what I just said, answers it. But the reason that these standards pave the way for a better, more trustworthy, more reliable future for AI is because they give transparency. You can't trust anything if you don't have transparency. Now, the thing is that every company has their own risk tolerance. They have their own bar on trust. You have great actors, you have medium actors, you have bad actors, but you cannot move the needle whatsoever if you don't actually understand the data that you're bringing in. So that's at a most basic level. Even if you talk to a CEO, if they're investing enormous amounts in AI, and let's say they're restructuring their company to focus more in AI. But if you tell a CEO like that, I actually don't know where our data is coming from, that's almost at the level of insane. And so having this kind of transparency absolutely sets the conditions for a much more trustworthy future around AI and any other future technologies that use data, frankly.
Thank you. Thank you for that insight. You build a standard across different industries is, to me, like a Herculean test. Yet you're able to successfully let the initiative make the impact. How did you begin this journey, and what were the key challenges and the milestone?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It is actually Herculean. I've been on it for 10 months. Um, so I think the most important thing to start with is a very clear vision of how this is useful. So we just covered a lot of that already. We need to have transparency into data sets, so we need this. Once everybody has bought in on that front, which is honestly one of the most important things, what we then did was we went around to all of our 19 companies and said, why don't you give us a use case? It's something that is critical to your business strategy, but is also very reliant on the provenance and origin of data.
Mhm.
Then that means we have use cases from all different industries and all different manners, and we can start to bubble up what are the challenges when it comes to data provenance. Now that we have a really good set of an understanding of the challenges with data provenance, we can now start to understand what are the standards that would respond to those. And why this is so important is because we view the standards through two very useful lenses. One, what will add business value to your organization? Because you shouldn't really be adopting any standards that don't give you any sort of
Mhm.
business value. And number two, what is actually going to be practical for you to adopt? If we give you a standard set that has 55 standards in it, that's too hard. You're not going to adopt it. So we made sure that we're going around with all the people in our working group in legal, in data, and so on and so forth to determine what is the most necessary thing. So we're really getting it down to what is most useful that you will actually be able to practically and feasibly adopt.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that, as you can tell, it takes time when you're looking through both those lenses, because you're trying to understand what is going to add value to all industries and what's going to be practical for all industries.
Mhm.
Um, so that was a feat in and of itself. But also we had to keep in mind that we're building this for an entire ecosystem. We can't just build it with alliance member companies. So we went outside, we talked to smaller companies, we talked to medium-sized companies, we talked to data producers, not just data consumers.
Mhm.
Um, to make sure that we have a pretty well-balanced view of the two lenses we talked about, business value and practicalities.
Mhm.
Um, and now, and then on top of that, we're still not done, because at that point it's still theoretical. Now we need to test it. So
Mhm.
that's where we are right now. We're testing and refining these standards. And our goal is to release them at the end of Q2 the year. You can take about 3 or 4 years perfecting them, honestly,
Yeah.
but you got to get them out there. So that's what we're doing. It's a version 1, and we're excited to see our members adopt it, to see others adopt it. We'll learn. They'll change over time, but it's important. It's important for us to have data transparency now.
Thank you. So one of the questions you briefly mentioned, you have large members, and you also talk to mid and small size companies, and I think adoption of those standards by those middle size or small size company is crucial as well. What do you think are the barriers and also solutions for them?
Yeah. So the barriers, like, most barriers for small companies is all about time and resources,
Mhm.
right? You are on the hook for actually identifying what is the metadata that is required for each data set. That takes time.
Mhm.
And um, but I will say that it is worth it. So let's say that you are a smaller data provider. At this point in time, if you're doing all of this work to essentially tag data sets, it feels like a lot now.
Mhm.
But over time, the clients of that data provider are going to be asking for it anyway. And if you have it and you've done it well, chances are that, it's highly desirable to the clients. Therefore, maybe it's of a higher premium.
Yeah.
And then you start to set yourself in a different league of what kind of offerings that you provide. And you
Yeah.
start to sort of be brandished as a data provider that is trustworthy. That is obviously of huge desirability to any data provider.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I do believe that that will take time to get to, we're also starting to think of the how. So the job of the Data and Trust Alliance is to create the what of the standard. Very importantly is how. So we've started to talk to different tool providers to determine how exactly should this be done to make it easier. So if you're a data consumer, what are the kind of data governance tools or tracking tools that you'll want to use for this to make it easy? We've already started to think about that. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a data provider, what are the kind of tools that over time will help you tag and track these data sets? There's a possibility there's stuff happening all the time that will make this easier.
Mm-hmm.
So I think number one is really just buying into the fact that this is going to be something that's necessary across the ecosystem and that it's helpful.
Yeah.
But two, trying to determine what are the hows that are going to make it easier.
Right. That's very insightful. So, so to our audience, what are the key takeaways you think they should know?
Yeah. In the world of AI, data is really important.
Mm-hmm.
It's necessary. It's almost as if one of our co-chair likes to say that in the world of AI, you don't actually want to focus on the models. The most sustainable competitive advantage is the data.
Yes.
Now, if that is the case, you want to have transparency into data.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to have transparency into data across the board, we need to have a universal understanding of what does really great transparency look like that can give you a sense of trust. That is why we've created essentially data provenance standards to give you that transparency. So that's the general takeaway. If you want to be known for using trustworthy, transparent data, you need to use standards. And ideally, you start by using standards like ours, which are designed to be almost like baby standards. They're designed to give you what you need, but without a lot of difficulty in terms of implementing them. I think over time, people will create more robust standards. So my general takeaway, obviously I'm extremely biased, but make sure you understand your data. And there are lots of tools to be able to help you do that, including our standards.
Thank you. That's very insightful, Sarah. Thank you for your insight on data provenance standards and their vital role in building a trustworthy AI future. And our society will hugely benefit from your cross-industry data standard. And we really appreciate that. Thank you so very much for your time.
So much for having me on, Jen.
Thank you.